we're happy enough with the state of Colonists Plus on the roadmap that we're going to move to the next milestone. I don't think we'll ever be completely, happy with anything. We can always come back and make it better and better and better and better and better. But again, we're happy enough with where it is right now. And we'll always probably, if we have time, we'll go back later and improve Colonists even more. But for now, we just can't justify extra time on it, because there are things, let's say, hobbies, right? Okay, so there are no hobbies in the game right now, but we don't think that hobbies are more important than missions or solar system. And so we can go back later and add hobbies if we have time. But if we don't have time, I would rather have missions and no hobbies than to have hobbies but no missions. So that's what we're doing. And just as a quick recap of things we did, let's see, in Colonists Plus, we added perks, a perk system. So colonists have 3 perks now. We added a basic doctor system where doctor can craft. We added a drug system. We added a workbench where you can craft items. We added a basic combat system. We added some personality and relationships with colonists. We implemented a system for free time actions like wandering and kind of, seeing objects. We also implemented a visual sight system. We implemented breakable objects, so now objects can break and bad stuff can happen when they break. And we improved farm, and I'm sure we did other stuff too. So we did all that, and now we're moving on to missions. And so I just want a quick recap that. Oh, by the way, we also changed the order a little bit in our roadmap. Before it went Colonist Plus, and then I think it went external areas and Starmancer Core, but we rearranged that. We put missions and solar system first, because when we were just thinking about which thing we'd rather have in the game, we thought that missions were more important than Starmancer Core and external areas. And the way we try to think about it too is something like, which feature are we most okay with cutting from the game? So because you're limited, when you're making a game, you're very limited on either time, the amount of time that you have to release, or by how quickly you can implement any feature, and a little bit of both in reality, right? And so you're never going to be able to do every single thing you want to do. And part of me thinks that if you do everything that you want to do, either you have almost no standards, or like ideas really, like you know what I mean? Or you released like 3 years after you probably could have. And so we're not trying to make this game take forever to create. So, and again, just to say it again, if we have time, we will go back and improve the existing things. All right. Okay, so missions. So the whole big idea with missions are that we want the player to be able to experience the like to play like a macro game as opposed to a micro game, right? What we're looking for is, once you reach a point where your station is basically in balance and harmony, and you're growing enough food and you're producing enough fuel to keep the lights on and the oxygen, recycled and stuff like that, you need something else to do, right? Because often in these games, you're just kind of like begging for like a disaster, because you're just like, oh, I'm so bored. I just want something. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but you just want something bad to happen just because you're bored. You just want chaos. And so a big purpose of missions is to just give you something to do, once your station is in order. It allows you to play the macro game. It makes you feel like you're actually a part of the system, the star system, and not just sort of living in a vacuum on your little station and nothing happens. And so missions include things like going out and mining on asteroids. Includes things like going down to another station and maybe salvaging it or scavenging it. It includes things like, I don't know, sending a doctor out to go and cure a sick person, and you come back and they give you a new crew member in exchange, or they give you money, or they give you goods, and that sort of thing. So those are all missions, as opposed to, by the way, things like quests, which are part of solar systems. And so a quest would be something like actually that's part of factions, actually. But a quest, the idea of a quest is that like a faction says, hey, I'm the science faction and I want a scientist. Could you send me one? And if you do, I'll like you more. So that's just a little bit different. All right, anyway, so that's what a mission is. So a mission, the big macro focus, that's the idea. And then also the idea of a mission for things like mining are that the duration's a little bit longer. So you maybe have to wait a while, but once your ship comes back from the mission, you get like a high yield of things. Okay. But I'm just going to show you because it's easier. So, okay. Oh, by the way, missions, they're not finished yet, and I never know what to do. You know, like when should I upload stuff and when should I don't know, do things. But it's an alpha, and so I don't know. I guess what I settle with is that if you're in alpha for a reason because you want to play early, if you're in alpha. So if you want to play, we'll let you play. They're not, the missions aren't done yet. It's, you know, they're not fun, they're not balanced. But if you want to play early, you can. And if you're looking to have fun, just wait. And that's pretty much always our stance, is that if you want to have fun, play on release. If you want to play early, you know, play, you know, get alpha, get beta, or whatever. But if you want to just have the most fun, just play on release. So I saw the mission. So right now, the way it works is you place, I use the sterile floor, I'm obsessed with it. So right now you place a hanger, and a hanger is under powered objects here, a little hanger used for missions or whatever. So you place a hanger, and for now there's automatically a ship placed whenever you place a hanger. And in the future we might do things where you can swap out the type of ship or something like that, or repair a ship, or a ship could be destroyed. But in the short term, it's just going to be a hanger and a ship. Okay, and you can click on it. It's got a little name, Charlie. We gave ships names too. I don't know why. I just thought it was funny. The idea, by the way, for ships having names, there's a real reason. The reason is that we're not sure if we want you to need a pilot in order to have a ship. Because if you need a pilot, that suggests that there's well, it sort of suggests that there's like a pilot skill. And if there's a pilot skill, then what's the difference between a low-level pilot and a high-level pilot? I don't know what the difference is. And so for now, what we're doing is we're, at least internally in some sort of like lore or something, is we're saying that ships are piloted by AIs, and that's why they have names. And so the name of this AI is Charlie. And then also in the future, we might have something like some sort of maybe a Starmancer core as an item that you can use to maybe build ships, because maybe you need that to build AI and stuff like that. And then that can make ships into a higher tier object, but you know, like in terms of like the requirements for you to build a hangar and stuff like that. Anyway, so ships have names, and right now there are not that many names in the ship like name randomization. So you're probably going to see the same names over and over again if you're building ships. Okay. And then with missions, they're largely user interface based, which makes them like really hard. Just to like, it's really hard. So it's really hard to be like, oh, they're like, it's hard to do it in parts, because it's almost entirely user interface based. Because from your perspective, what basically, in large part, what happens is, you know, you create a mission, then the ship, you know, gets stocked and stuff like that, and the crew boards and they leave, and then that's it. And then they just eventually, it magically comes back with the things. But there's a lot of UI things for it. And so it's really the UI that's not finished. So if we were to show the UI, which is, again, it's not finished, it's very placeholder, we add this little button down at the bottom of the toolbar. And this is probably where it will stay. Probably, unless we can figure out a better place. So missions here. And if you click on missions, and again, this is not finished, but I'm just showing you where it's at right now. You have a bunch of different missions types, like you have a mining mission. And if you click on it, mining, it'll show you all of the system bodies that you've discovered that you can mine at. And then this one I think is salvaged, and apparently there's no salvageable things that we've discovered. So if you click on mining, there's some asteroids, and then this little green number, which I think you can see, it's kind of hard to see, it's the distance from the station. So there's little things like that. You can send out a ship, or like on a mission, you can do multiple locations at the same time. So a reason you might do that is if you just want, I don't know, maybe you just want to make sure that your ship gets fully stocked, so you can send, okay, so I want to mine on Mercury, and apparently these two asteroids that are just named ASD. And also you can toggle this if you didn't. So you toggle it, whatever. Okay, so I want to go to those two places, and I can select the ships, and then I'll show you the ship, which was Charlie. And I have no crew right now, but if I had a crash, I'll play some Colonists. You know what else I need too? Ships also need fuel, and then they need something for their crew. So let me place some fuel real quick. Let's see, there's a lot of back-end stuff I had to do for missions too. So while I'm just doing this, you know, I had to add like system bodies, like asteroids and stations, and planets, and I had to give them resources and sort of designate them as part of a specific mission type. Like if I were, I'm just showing you. So if I were to go to asteroid, like this one here, So an asteroid. So what I had to do is like, I had to give it things like say that it was valid for mining, and that's what makes it display in the interface. I had to spawn it with items. So right now asteroids are spawning with between 10 and 20 ore. And then, I had to do things like if they had lots of items, like a planet might have lots of items, I had to say, okay, well, for which specific mission type should you give items and stuff like that, and how much, what's the max, and all those sort of things. So I do all that in the back end. All right, but anyway, so ships need fuel, they need food for the crew, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I was doing right here. Okay, so I'm going to place some dudes here. And I'm going to go back to this mission. I'm just going to make a random thing. Okay. And then missions require fuel and food. And the amount of fuel is based off the distance of the entire mission. And the amount of food is required based off of the duration, which is, so different than the distance, and then multiplied by the number of crew. So if you had no crew, you wouldn't need any food. And then in the short term, what we're doing is we're using biomass as the food, and we might do that forever. Because if we don't use, I don't know, we could just use any food, but I also kind of like using biomass, because the nice thing about biomass is you can hook it up to the pipes and the water and the tanks, and then you can just stock your ship automatically, as opposed to, requiring colonists to deliver like a plate of spaghetti onto your ship, which is sort of silly anyway. But anyway, so I select the ship, select some crew, blah, blah, blah. You can toggle these guys too. If you create the mission, and you kind of see the fuel is going down because it's accepted the fuel. And the biomass went down a little bit too. Well, it's supposed to at least. I don't know if it actually. Anyway, then they're going to board. There they are. Brave soldiers boarding ship. And then the ship takes off. And if I click it, he flies off into oblivion. And we wave bye-bye to Charlie, the ship, and here's his inventory. And then what he's doing is he's going out, and you won't be able to see anything right now because no UI for it. And also just because I think this is sort of fun to show. The ship is not gone. It's actually like just really high up. It's just here. Just waiting forever. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to debug some stuff so you can see. In 237 seconds, the ship is going to arrive at its destination. Its first one, I think. Is that right? So I'll speed up time. And eventually, there it is. So he went to some destination and he got some ore. However much this was, like a lot of ore apparently. And then he's going to his next destination. He gets more ore. And now he should be returning to base. Here. He's returning to base. And he'll be back. Oh, and by the way, in terms of selecting locations, the distance is based off of the duration, I should say, is based off of the distance to the station. And if you select multiple locations, the order is automatically adjusted so that the closest locations are first. And then the distance is based off of like the order is based off the distance to like the current, location that you're at. So the first planet you go to would be the one that's closest to the station, and then the second planet you go to would be the one that's closest to that planet. So, but that's just a way of saying that the mission duration, or like is the mission distance, I guess, is automatically calculated to be the shortest possible. So they're not going back and forth. Anyway, so now the dude's returning. And another reason that we want you to be able to select multiple locations is in case you're in a station that's far away in the middle of nowhere, and maybe it takes you a really long time to get to, to a planet or something. But then once you're there, maybe you can make a few stops and sort of save some stuff. Oh, by the way, you can also put multiple ships on one mission too, for a similar reason. And then we're also thinking that maybe in the future there'll be like danger ratings. And here's the ship coming back. And certain locations might be more dangerous, so you could assign multiple ships, like an escort or something. And then these people should come off. See? How wonderful for these guys. Cool, and then they get off the ship. And they should take the items off as well. But like probably because I'm making a video, they won't. It'll probably break. But if I make you a laborer, and you a laborer, and you a laborer, Mackenzie Eaton Rapids, City, Michigan. And they'll go on the ship, and then they'll come off with stuff. And hopefully this is 3 minus 3. Cool, it does. So do that. And there was a lot of back end for this too. So for instance, I had to implement a system where colonists could go to an access position here, see where they're rotating, and they had to walk forward a little bit, and then sort of turn around and walk back. So I do stuff like that. Um, and also I set it up so that if their route gets interrupted while they're halfway on this thing, they'll go to the right vertex and not walk through a ship. And so there's little things like that we have to do. And then I had to implement some sort of like AI sleep component where they won't talk if they're in a ship, because like internally when the ship flies away, the colonists are still like internally just located right here, right at this spot, and everyone thinks that's where they are. Oh my gosh, I bet I forgot to. Oh no, I think okay. All right, no, I'm good. I'm pretty sure they're not visible. I don't think you can see them. Now, whatever. I'll probably forgot some things here and there. But they shouldn't do things like talk. They shouldn't display thought bubbles. They shouldn't tick their needs, because they shouldn't die when they're on a mission. Well, they shouldn't die. I should say they shouldn't die from they shouldn't pass out from lack of sleep while they're on a mission, because as a player you have no control over that. And they shouldn't die of starvation because you're giving them food. And then in terms of lore, there must be some sort of sleeping quarters in here or something, right? And somehow like there's a cafeteria where it's getting, or like a kitchen area where it's getting food and that sort of thing. Okay. All right, so they go out, they do their mission stuff, and they come back, and everyone's super happy. Oh, and then by the way, right now, you could send your ship to the same place multiple times, but there is a finite amount of material on some of these bodies, like asteroids. Planets are supposed to be like unlimited, but asteroids very finite, and so you could easily mine them out. And so right now, there's nothing to tell you how much resources left. And so if you were to send your ships to the same mission, the same place over and over and over again, eventually you'd get nothing because there's nothing left. And what we'll do, hopefully this week, but maybe next week, is we'll adjust the UI so that stuff goes away. And also, speaking of the UI, see how it's color coordinated? That's not going to be like that in like the final thing, but in the short term we use that so we can position elements and stuff like that. Cool. Let's see what else. The missions aren't balanced at all. So like in terms of the amount of stuff it's coming back with, it's just kind of like, who even knows? It's just coming back with a bunch of stuff, and then you're getting. But again, the intent is that it's a long duration and you get a high yield for it. So that's the intent. And then the current type of missions that we're thinking about having is mining, and you can only mine on asteroids or moons or rocky planets. Salvage, and salvage would be like going to a station and you just get stuff. So you make it like biomass or something, or you might get food, you might get metal, but you probably wouldn't get ore, that sort of thing. And maybe we'll have an explore mission where you just send your guys out to a station or a planet or a system body, and they discover the stuff that's nearby. Or maybe it's like a survey type thing where you can figure out which resources are stored on that planet. That's the intent of it. So let's see what else. Anything else in missions that's super interesting? Not really. So you'll be able to play if you're an alpha. You'll be able to play tonight. And again, this is just kind of what it looks. This is our life. This is just sort of what stuff looks like before it's completely finished. But I don't know. I was super torn. Do I push the thing? Do I push the patch when it's kind of in this state, or do I not do it? And again, what I decided was, if you want to play in its current state, you can, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. So basically, everybody wins. Except of course there will be people who will play anyway, and they'll they won't be happy with its current state. But just you don't have to play. So cool. I think that's it. So, I don't know. I guess I just say goodbye. So, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.